reset button, which would send my children back into that. I know several people who work in Troy, police officers, firemen, city hall liaisons, CPS officers, and none of them send their children to Troy public schools. My best friend of 40 years works for CPS. Legally, he can't tell me anything that happens because of what he does. And told me flat out that he was less than a good person if I allowed my kids to go to Troy public schools. I've spoken to police officers who have told me stories about what happens, not just in high school, but second, third, fourth grade. We chose to be in Wynantskill because of Gardner Dickinson. And I don't care that the city of Troy is getting $250 million. I don't care that they're getting bright, shiny, brand new buildings. I don't care about a breakfast program or new iPads or daycare facility type situations. I understand that teachers are a calling. I understand that they care very much. I'm married to one. My sister's a teacher. My brother-in-law is an admin. My cousin is an admin. And my best friends growing up as a teacher, and they all told me that the most important thing is community and parents. A quick Google search shows the fact that 1/4 of the people who live in Troy are in poverty, and that they have a higher than national average for assault and robbery and drug charges. And those are the people who send their kids to the school that my kids are going to be going to potentially. My next door neighbor is a former school board member of Wynantskill, who said 30 years ago they attempted a merger, and they said then that there was 2 to 3 years left of financial stability in the system. 30 years ago they said there was 2 to 3 years, and now we're hearing there's 3 years of financial stability in this system. So if 30 years ago there was 2 to 3 years, and now there's 3 years, what does that mean? We chose Gardner Dickinson, we chose Wynantskill because of the family and the community and the school system. And I am absolutely terrified of losing that. And I don't care about my home value going down or my taxes going up. I care about what my parents sacrificed for me and sacrificed for my children, so that they could grow up in a great community with a great school system that Gardner Dickinson does have. And I'm terrified of losing that. So thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Was it Ann? Or
Ann, it's Ann,
Yep.
yes.
Go ahead.
I'm here about the merger as well. First of all, I mean, I found out about it through the Wynantskill neighborhood group on Facebook. So it sounds like you're pretty deep into this discussion. So I'd like to know why I haven't received any information at home about it. I feel like it's a lack of transparency and unfair to the community, first of all. And secondly, I'd like to say, as this man said, yes, I was living in Wynantskill 30 years ago when the merger was attempted before. And we came together as a community and we voted it down because we didn't think it was good for the children in this community. And I still feel that way for many of the things that this man just said. And, you know, there also were a lot of other factors back then that I've seen mentioned, but I don't know that if people really understand the implications. For example, you say they're not going to close the school, they're not going to raise our taxes. You don't really have any control over that because you're not going to be in charge of it anymore. When around the same time that we had the merger 30 years ago, the George Washington School, which was an independent school like Gardner Dickinson, was merged into Averill Park. Within a couple years, that school was closed. and the community was very upset about it. And also, I mean, I don't have any facts, but I believe that their taxes didn't go down, they probably went up, I don't know. So those are two very important factors. And if Gardner Dickinson closes, where are the kids gonna go? Not one of those Troy schools is gonna be able to absorb all the children. It's gonna be spread out throughout Troy, and as this man says, I know people who've taught in this Troy school district, and some of those elementary schools are not the place where I think these people want their children to be. And I've been a homeowner in this town for 35 years. I'm probably gonna be selling my house in 5 to 10 years. I don't want my house value going down because we're now part of the Troy School District. And I also don't want my taxes going up. I think my taxes for this school are already absurdly high. So that's all I'd like to say. I just would like these people, maybe who weren't around 30 years ago, to be aware of things that could happen. Thank you.
Thank you. That was it? Nobody else at this time? Thank you both. Okay, let's move on to section 3, which is our district reports. We have up first our Board of Education updates. Mrs. Castle, you wanted to note some?
I wanted to talk about Jenny, Michael, and I attended the Leadership in Education event put on by the School Board Association August 1st and 2nd. And we attended some pretty interesting sessions. And there was one by SED. They had representatives there. They had a great session on Wellness Matters and brought up some programs that I took some pictures of. I'll share you I think we're along the same lines in what we're doing, but I'll share that with Mary. Strategies for effective collaboration and decision making. That was, I think, probably one of the best of the day that we went to. It was very interactive and really helped stress the communication factor for everybody. And then I went back on Saturday morning and went to one that was navigating an uncertain financial future. It's very common. I mean, to listen to other districts talk, it's the same thing, like they try to put a budget together and they get their budget together and nobody shows up to vote. Nobody comes to the budget hearings. Nobody wants to be part of anything, but yet they don't want any, it's the same changes that we're all going through. Everybody talked about massive cuts, what you can't guarantee in state aid anymore. Everybody's losing state aid, losing federal aid. So it was kind of nice to hear that everybody's in the same boat and just trying to find different ways to maneuver around it. So I thought there were some really good sessions, and I can share further information on that if any of you are interested.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kat.
Anything you wanted to add, Jen?
No, I think it was interesting. It was my first board event, big conference. There's a lot of information, a lot of good information. Yeah.
And a lot of free stuff.
Yeah. We enjoyed ourselves. It was interesting.
Good.
That's it.
Any other updates at this time? I was going to make an update that we received 2 emails since our August 13th meeting regarding the feasibility study, both of which have been responded to. And I think that's it for now. Dr. Yotis is going to talk about the reorganization feasibility study update under her superintendent report. The floor is yours.
And then I'm going to share buildings and grounds and transportation because Rocco or Mike couldn't be here.
Okay.
We'll just start with buildings and grounds. Classrooms are done, rugs are cleaned, hallway floors waxed. 2 trees were taken down, a lot of dead trees out there, they're dying off. So, cleaning up the trees out there. New locks were installed, so this was something that we've been talking about for a long time. But every classroom will have a new door handle that doesn't have to, it'll just automatically be locked all the time. So anytime the door shuts, it's in locked position. You can get out obviously from the other side, but it's always locked so that, like we were worried about in a lockdown, sometimes you can't, which way do I put the key in, if in a real emergency. So to take that worry out, the doors always just lock. and that's what they should be, shut and locked at all times during instruction. So they were installing those yesterday, today, and finishing up early next week, so that's kind of exciting. Transportation, bus runs are done, we're sent out. Little Red's gonna probably get theirs tomorrow, but all the bus runs are done. Mike and I met with all the drivers this week, went over the routes. As you'll see, Nicole Manser, I'm getting ahead of us, but has resigned to take another job opportunity to work at home for the year. So we wish her lots of luck, but that left us down a driver. So we took the 12 routes and condensed into 11, which really works out well. There was just the one issue is that we were having trouble getting to Wildwood, right? So Wildwood is all the way in Schenectady. And the way that that works, it's a separate run itself for the driver because it is, you have to be there an hour and a half beforehand to get in line with the 100 buses. It is just very chaotic. So we contacted Troy, asked if they had a bus, and they are going to provide the transportation for our 2 students going to Wildwood to Schenectady every day. So that was a huge relief. So we were able, with that run going with Troy, to have 11 routes, and everything looks really good. So we met with each driver to talk about some of those changes, but again, a huge thank you to Troy for helping us out with that transportation. Thank you to summer drivers. Summer was a great success for the summer drivers and aides on the buses. So that's transportation. New staff, as you'll see, we have a lot of new staff that we brought on. We were able to fill all of our positions. We needed a half-time special ed teacher, half-time aide, another full aide for the ICANN room, bus driver. Neil is coming back, which is exciting. You knew about that. Denise Fitzgerald as part-time payroll clerk. Jody, another half-time aide to do nurse support because that nurse gets 45 minutes of clerical aid as well as a lunch. So Jody's going to come back in that part-time capacity and cover the nurse. You'll see Connor is on the agenda just because all of his certifications are in Teach, and he is now fully certified. So we just switched him over from term to tenured probationary. Sports, we have 35 students heading to Troy with a new sports merger.
Yay.
Which is really exciting. 13
Nice.
have signed up for soccer, 17 volleyball, 3 football, 1 playing up in cheer, and 1 playing up for soccer. So 35 is a huge
That's
number
exciting.
for our little school.
Yes.
For 7th and 8th. So that's really exciting. So we have worked out the transportation. There will be a bus run from Wynantskill every day at 2:30, taking however many students need. It's a bus solely for that, just to take the shuttle to Troy every single day. So that's exciting. So 35 is a huge number, as you know, for sports.
And multi-sports too.
Yeah,
Right.
so that's exciting.
Right.
That not everybody is.
We never
is-
had that many playing here, I don't think.
No,
One time.
no.
That's great.
And only having to play soccer. So that's really great that there's the choice. And as you saw, Vinny's going to be coaching at Troy soccer,
that,
so the
yeah.
kids are really excited, and so that's good. So that's off to a good start. As far as the feasibility study, work with that. Just the proposal, the request for proposals went out on the 14th. Harry Hodgenu, Questar, Harry and Gladys are taking that over, so they put out the RFP. And that closes, I believe, on the 1st or 2nd of September. So then they'll be looking to interview and go through that process. So we'd hope to bring a consultant on by the end of, if they're ready to choose by mid-September for our board meeting. I wanted Carl Ublacker from the Department of State reached out after seeing us on our news segment. Carl used to live in North Greenbush. He told us about a local government efficiency grant program from the Department of State. He said the application will come out in about October, that they would help or pay for all of the feasibility study. Any amounts occurred from January. She said expenses that you incur at the first of the year. So from January 1st, 26. So that is the Department of State, and he was very supportive. He would like to come to the next board meeting to share that with all of you, that there are supports. He knows our area, and he was just really a wealth of knowledge. He also reached out and he put me in touch with a gentleman named John Evans. He's a superintendent of a newly merged Roscoe Livington Manor School District. So John and I have emailed a couple times, and we have an appointment to meet next week just to hear about his experiences. So Carl, who you will meet, was just a great guy. Just reached out because he saw us and he knew our community. Another person I think I told you that reached out is Bill LaForester, who was a previous superintendent here at Wynantskill. He reached out this week. He had heard about the feasibility study going on. He was a superintendent during the successful merger between Cobleskill and Richmondville, which I didn't know that. So he's actually coming to meet Belle and I on Monday just to share some of his experiences, and because he knows the community so well. So we look forward to meeting with Bill. So yeah, just two very nice gentlemen who reached out and lend their support. I also have a meeting coming up. I met with the Wynantskill seniors who puts that together, so I'll be meeting with them Monday at 1 o'clock at the town building. So we're going over there. Expect to have 45 to 50 Wynantskill seniors that are interested in hearing about what's happening here at Wynantskill.
So did you say 10 o'clock, Mayor?
1 o'clock. 1 o'clock.
Odd zero. So
No.
1 and a 0.
10, I have Bill. Bill will be here in the morning.
Gotcha.
Busy day Monday. The Questar feasibility page launched that next day on the 14th. We have a Q&A that we're adding to, as you know. And so that page is being updated daily. I did spend the last day or so, I don't know if you can see this. Kyle, can you make that big, or you actually all have it, have it in your packet? Yeah, that's better. I developed a timeline because I think a lot of this is, where did this come from? I didn't hear anything about this. Some of the questions were, what happened so fast? How did this come about? And even for us, it seems a little fast and overwhelming. And so I just put thoughts together in a timeline that kind of explained like where we've been the last few years and how this kind of came to fruition. I'm sharing with you all, but I certainly can take this and put this on the Q&A if you think this will be helpful. In 23-24, I really just, we thought about that year. Do you have that separately?
I don't think we do.
No.
Kyle, didn't we have a copy of this? No?
I can share with Mary. There was.
Do you
one
have a
there.
copy?
I'm sorry.
You don't think
Well,
it's
you
not
can
in there?
look over there. I can look over there.
All right.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
good. You got
All
it.
right. I'll
Take it.
I'll read a little bit more of it. All right. So the 23-24 school year, for you remember, like that was pretty much the year of transportation. I think we spent an enormous amount of time studying the transportation department and the difficulties we're having. We also, I said, struggle starts post-COVID. For 2 years, we had that extra COVID money, which really helped put a cushion. We didn't get a tremendous amount of COVID money. When most schools got millions, we got about 700,000, but it was enough that really supported the 2 years and the extra mental health services, the SRO, the things that we added. So I think the struggle started, 23-24 when we lost that COVID money, and then we really talked about the transportation, the ongoing questions with the stability of North Greenbush. North Greenbush was looking to get into study. They did have a study with their consultant, Bill Lyons, to explore cheaper options for transportation. So they were looking at three things. Could they find another public school district to take them on? Could they find a private school to take them on? Or would Wynantskill do it at a cheaper rate? And this came off of a year when we just gave the longevity, all of those pieces that we're giving.
North Greenwich is a little red, right? A little red.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I could add that. So
Oh,
they
sorry.
know. So they're confused. I'm calling in my paper NG.
Yeah, I know that the North Greenwich, yeah.
So yeah, the struggles with Little Red is we were concerned what would happen if they did pull out of the transportation. The $300,000 is revenue that we count on, right? So that we started our own study then. We had John Yogowski come in, we had Mike Loss from State Aid Planning. And so if you remember, really that's when the district was really made known that the revenue coming in from Little Red for $300,000 for the transportation services, we were actually losing $250,000 of our own, $250,000 through a deduct, and then learning that, you know, we probably could have cut a few drivers, a few buses, that it's actually not helping us in our revenue. It's hurting us. It is an issue. One thing we were concerned about too was the tuition. So if we didn't provide the transportation, because Wynantskill takes a little bit of certainly a negative impact from doing the transportation, would we lose some of those students? They come to us now in 3rd grade instead of 2nd grade because they built the addition on, and we value that partnership because it keeps us too deep, moving from 3 to 8. But unfortunately, several students are leaving after 5th grade and not going to finish 6th, 7th, and 8th grade.
Right.
So here's where we felt that we were losing enrollment, but yet we're taking a loss at the transportation. So that's when we asked North Greenbush, the board, and the superintendent that, you know, we wanted to be an exclusive tuition-based elementary and middle school solution for them, or we'd have to consider the transportation. Unfortunately, North Greenbush did not agree in making us exclusive. So that's where we still sit. We have one more year on the contract that feels like it is not, you know, even the optimization study said it feels like it's not something that Wynantskill should continue to offer. So there's that. But yeah, that whole 23-24 was so much of finding a struggle and finding that partnership is maybe doing more harm than good. Right out of that strategic planning we considered over the summer. I explored consultants from Ed Elements. We were looking at feedback from family, our Compass group. We started that Compass group with Dr. Wilcox from New York Kids. We still have that Compass group. They were sending out surveys 3 times a year. We were getting a lot of negative feedback from families, particularly at the middle school level, about the lack of choice and accelerated courses. That coupled with, the feedback, but looking at what could we do to save those students, especially when so many of the students from Little Red were leaving after 5th grade. We were looking to consult with Ed Elements. That price tag was $80,000, if you remember, just to help us kind of get some kind of promotion out there to say, come to GD, stay at GD. What we were worried about is $80,000 for our district was a large amount of money where we weren't sure where the outcomes would be. Would we retain students by just doing this kind of rebranding when we're actually not changing program? That was our summer retreat discussion. September 1st comes along, New York State launches the regionalization initiative where they're recruiting districts to share services. We had a 100-page survey that we had to put in with the state, as every superintendent did across New York State. We worked with Questar 3 BOCES, with Gladys Cruz. We worked with our 23 component districts. And the results there, I say, were eye-opening. That was the first time really revealing weaknesses in all domains of the survey: academic domain, the social, cultural domain, capacity domain, enrollment, staffing, technology, all of those pieces. We had significantly less programming, choice, sports than anybody else. And I think that is the work. I think this is all going to be public. I'm hearing this fall where the state is compiling that data and looking at 700 schools across the state and saying where everybody kind of filtered through and what you could do, right? So then the idea of this is for a small school like us, to share services and to promote, better programming for students. Through this program, and one of the things we were struggling with was transportation. I met several times with the superintendent that I worked with in Rensselaer City to come up with a shared service for transportation director. As you know, unfortunately, we were months to plan that, and the person left after 2 months, and we ended up going on our own way, and luckily found Yankee Trails, but sharing with other districts is not as easy as we learned. It takes a great deal of work, and it's only the plans as good as the people that are providing that service. So that happens in September. We get into November. Belle and I go to a state aid planning meeting on November 7th. We go to the planning meeting. The key messages from state aid planning were, if you are a district under 500 students, you are going to get hurt the most by the stagnation of the foundation aid. And if we look at things, over the last 15 years, we really have had no increase. Our foundation aid has been flat for the last 15 years. That is the aid that we spend, that we count on the most. That is our largest portion of revenue from the state, and that has been stagnant. That is based on when John McDonald is here every year, and he's telling us, I wish I had better news, hold harmless, Eric, as we always say. That's a guarantee that the state has made to say you won't get less than what you had the year before. Last year we ended up with nothing. The state commissioned the Rockefeller Institute to look at foundation aid. What we're still hearing is that's not going to change. That's based on your enrollment. Our enrollment is down from, in the 13 years I've been here, at one point it was 425. It is down to this summer 298. We're hoping it's going to go to 301. I said we can't have another drop in the hundreds place. But still, we're down about a quarter of our students. And so that foundation aid is based on your enrollment and your wealth ratio for income wealth in Wynantskill and property wealth. And they think that we are in a wealthy area with less kids, so you don't need money. So right now, we are stagnant. This year, our increase from year to year was $30,000. I mean, you really can't do much in a school district with $30,000. That was the increase in foundation aid. They're saying that hold harmless they're still looking at pulling that away, which would mean last year we were happy when we got zero, because in the first state run, it looked like we were going to be negative 250,000.
Right.
So we were thrilled when it was zero. So there is still that fear that it won't be zero. They're going to start taking from what we have now. So that's what the meeting was about. The foundation aid hitting the hardest with school districts under 500. The second half was the incentive aid, that there was significant incentive aid from the state for reorganization and mergers. We, like good students, stayed after, raised our hands, asked questions, and said, it looked like you were talking literally to Wynantskill. And that's when they said, we had a hard time not staring at you the whole time. This is opportunities for districts who are struggling like Wynantskill. We asked if they knew the numbers. They were running numbers. We met with them on November 15th. We had a follow-up, Belle and I, Mike Loss, and Kathy Beardsley. That's when we found out that the merger money with Averill Park would have been about $75 million, and the merger with Troy would be $241 million. I said this was obviously a complete shock. Belle and I looked at each other, right? We actually wanted to be like, la, 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 get in the car and pretend like we didn't hear that, because who even wants to think of closing a district that you give your life fighting every day for? But then again, it really would have been negligent of us not to share this with you, which is why I asked Mike Loss to come and do a presentation for you so that you heard the same thing. This is obviously all over the state and going to every district, so they thought it was advisable for certainly every board to know what your merger incentive money would bring to the table. Mike Loss and Kathy Beardsley presented the information to you guys on December 16th. Although difficult to consider, I mean, it was an extraordinary financial opportunity. And those questions that we started asking ourselves, you know, really, are our programs enough? Are the families satisfied? And are the kids satisfied? You know, and then we looked at each other and said, you know, are people happy with Gardner Dickinson and the program we're putting out? So if you remember that strategic plan that we were going to pay $80,000 for to rebrand and put all this rah-rah behind became the optimization plan, the optimization study, so that we can really find out, what do people think of Wynantskill? Is this enough, right? And so we kind of hit the pause money on, put the pause on that number of not jumping into, oh my gosh, should we jump at this $241 million? Because money is not everything. But how are we doing? We feel the struggle financially, right? We saw the financial and the implications with our neighboring school districts, or very relied on Little Red, North Greenbush. And so that's how we decided to get into the optimization study. We just said, let's talk to a group to come and give their unbiased opinion. We picked somebody that is not from the area that would come out and look. And they would look objectively at what we offer, the academics, the extracurriculum, the finances, and most importantly, the community satisfaction. And that's what we really loved about the optimization, and still do believe, because it was about emotion. It was about how you feel about it. It was less about the facts and the numbers and how much money. It was more or less, what do you feel about your, you know, school? We asked the kids, we asked the staff, everybody was surveyed. February and April, we held the interviews with every 7th and 8th grader. All staff members were interviewed, administration, school board. Community forums were held in March and April, more than 100 participants at the study launch. In May, we had the community-wide survey launched. We had to wait till May 15th because it was in the budget newsletter, so we had a whole page on the budget newsletter with the QRL. To ask people for their responses. Let's see, where am I? We had 2 additional community meetings held on May 22nd. June 12th, that's when the preliminary results came in from Bob Bridenstine. And again, he got the same feedback from everybody. Everybody loves this little district, but realizes that it is struggling and it cannot sustain. It needs more programs, more offerings, more money was one of them, but it really needed more. But no one was giving up on it. No one wanted it to close. It just needed more. At that meeting, a clear recommendation to pursue the feasibility study with Troy was made by our Schmidt group. Dr. Rick Timms presented the 5-year financial projection. When I came aboard 5 years ago, he did the 5-year outlook financial plan. He said we were okay, but he said, you know, eventually, unless that foundation aid something changed, you're going to start having a hard time. At this point, Belle and I looked, we have 50% of our staff in those highest ranges. And that's really hard to roll over salary and benefits at such a level. So he could see that. He saw, right? Usually there's some sort of bell curve with your salaries. And he said you were going to be very top heavy with some large salary numbers for your staff, which would hit right about now. Rick Timms did another study. As you see, it's online, it's posted. You can listen to the whole thing. That's when he kind of gave us that shocking 36 months. Now, again, I think there is the question of, well, 36 months, could it be 4 years? Could it be 5 years? What happens? You know, can the district sustain it? This was the first year as my superintendency of I couldn't close the gap, right? As you know, we took $575,000 out of fund balance. The last few years, there's always been a way to save. 3 teachers retire and we don't fill them. We go down to one section. We kind of just right-size the district. So it didn't look like we cut anything, but we've cut quite a bit. This was the first year that literally we said, there's nothing left to cut. At this point, we're not going to look to cut our security resource officer. We're not going to cut the mental health. We're not going to cut AIS. We've already right-sized what we could. We have one section of pre-K, first, second, which are not optimal, right? So our kindergarten, which I believe in early intervention more than anybody, those kindergarten rooms should have 15 at max. We have 21 because we can't have 2 rooms of 10. And so our highest grade levels are in those younger grades, which is not, what we wanted, unfortunately. But through right-sizing the district, through attrition, through people retiring, we were able to cut back. This was the first year that we have a gap of 575. And we took it out of our fund balance. So, which again is a no-no because you didn't fix anything. So next year we know we're going to have the 575 plus some because I didn't fix anything. So I understand it is like we're doing fine now, but not really fine because I didn't do fine this year. And when you look at rolling the staff over just salary and benefits, and that's $400,000. And we collect from the tax base, we collect a new 113, I think it is, thousand this year, plus an extra 30,000 in financial aid or the foundation aid. That the expenses are up here and the revenue is staying stagnant. So, how many years can you get through like that? You're going to use your reserves. We're going to deplete our reserves, and that's what Rick Timms is saying. And in the study that he does, he shows us pulling 600 out of this year's budget for next year. So that means somehow we got to worry about
boiler that blows.
Right.
We have
No,
something
it doesn't
like
even
that.
include any
We're
of
not gonna
that.
have any of that money in that.
It doesn't include it. So even though I know it sounds like, okay, well maybe we're not, we're okay now because we have those reserves, but we're not really okay because we didn't close the gap. And what's coming next year that will help give us that offset that 600,000? When I'm being told nothing,
Yep.
nothing more from this state.
What did he say? I don't know if you guys know. I actually went out and looked. I said, "Who is Dr. Timms?" Right? He's like the Warren Buffett of New York State schools, financial matters. I was like, "Who is this guy?" Like, I wasn't sure. But what did he say for the taxes? Right? He said we would have some super majority something.
Yeah,
tax.
well, I asked Rick, Belle and I had several calls with Rick today because one of the questions is, from the community, is what happens if there's no merger? What's going to happen to our taxes?
Right.
Now, the study hasn't started yet, which is kind of unnerving because I feel like I have to get these answers on my own, and I don't, that's a lot. So when I called Rick and I said, if the merger doesn't go through, what happens to the taxes? And he's like, Mary, you want a really simple answer to a very complex problem. Like, it's not an easy, right? And so much can happen in a school district. Or what if that boiler goes? Or how much are you and Belle going to be able to squeeze out of this budget? Are we going to be able to really squeeze down so there's 600,000 left over that we know will close the next gap? And so, he said, you're asking a big question. I said, I know, but people don't want to wait for the feasibility study the next 6 months. They kind of want to know now, like, what happens. So again, I put that in the Q&A, but under his best guess as of yesterday would be taxes at 6.5% increase for the next 5 years would buy us 2 more years.
Yeah.
Instead of going broke in 2030, he
Right.
said you could probably live another year or 2 years. But 2032, you would face that financial cliff again, even with a 6.5, which we would need a majority vote to get to a 6.5. 6.5 for 5 years would try to save your reserves at $2 million,
Yeah.
to keep $2 million in
What is
reserves.
supermajority again?
Supermajority is what? You got to get like
60%.
60%
The
versus
majority, I guess.
Yeah, 60% majority.
versus 51 or whatever.
Anything
Yeah.
over the tax
Yeah.
cap that
Yeah.
we're assigned.
Yeah, to go over the 2% that we've stayed at the minimum. But that is not even a solution. It's not a solution. He said with a 6.5 would be a modest increase, still requiring some cuts from the district and some use of your reserve, but that would keep your reserve at about $2 million. I'm sorry, I got off. Where am I?
Oh,
Bob
Rick
Bright.
Tim's
Yeah.
presentation. So July 1st, the optimization study report is accepted by the board, and that's when you guys really affirmed that recommendation to look at a feasibility study with Troy, an informal meeting with Troy. The board to confirm interest had to be done. You met with the boards, July, and in the meantime, every day, I'm meeting with someone, regional, state officials, Questar 3, state aid planning, attorneys, consultants, financial planners. I feel like I've asked this question a million times. What else can we do? Something else has to, is there another solution? What else can we do? Where's the money? Is there other money? I've only been here 5 years as superintendent. Did I not do something correct? Like, what is happening? And I asked that question over and over, and the consensus is a feasibility study with Troy is by far the best answer and the only answer that we have right now. That's when, again, talking to the state and everything was the advised timeline to begin in the fall of 25 so that the potential merger could take place in 28. And that was we never really knew, what does this all mean? Where's the timeline? And then it was, if it takes 2 years, but Rick Timms is saying we only have 3, then we had to act now, which is why let's pull the, August 13th joint meeting to get into it, because knowing it's going to be a month or 2 to get the consultant on, then to get it going. So we're still looking at if this is a potential, if the feasibility study comes out positive, we're talking 2028, which again, we had to start. And so I think, there was some question, where does the August 13th come out of? It was literally the study going, the July 1st, talking to state ed saying, you need to get on this now if you're looking, this is a 2-year process. So, we had the vote on the 13th. On the 14th, Questar issued the RFP. That's still in the works for the next couple of weeks. We started the feasibility website. The link is there. There's a QR code for anybody who doesn't have it on the table over there next to the sign-in sheet. A postcard went out today to every family because, again, getting to that community is really important to us, but how do we do that to ensure everybody gets it besides a postcard, a letter, and that's what we had to do. So the mailing takes like a week.
To every
goes
family
to the
in
printer.
the district, to
Every
every
family in the
residence
district.
in the
2,000
district.
houses, yes.
Okay.
It would go out in the postal routes.
And Mary, why can't we do 2 feasibility studies at the same time?
Why can't you?
Yeah.
Because the state says you can't.
Okay. And then I'm going to toss you a couple of softballs, but these are important facts for everybody to
Okay.
get.
You can only
Why
get into
can't
a
we
study with
do
one.
East Greenbush and Tamarack?
Because
Or
you
Greenfield?
have to be a contiguous border, and we don't border them. So they're never an option.
And why don't we just merge with Little Red and make everything good?
Besides, they don't want to merge. We don't have a high school. I don't even know if 2 districts without a high school
No
can
incentive,
merge.
right? There's no incentive. There's nothing, right?
No.
Yeah. It's just getting facts out there. That's all.
Yeah. So again, we are adding to the Q&A. I think I've covered all of those, but Little Red we have to work on maybe. I did get a call, which was interesting, from a North Greenbush family saying, I heard we're going to have to go to Troy. I said, you're in your own district. You do your own
Yeah.
thing.
Not our problem.
But I did call that superintendent to say, I did get that kind of off the wall. I don't even know how to connect that dot of how they would think we were connected. But I asked her to do it, or we can put that in our Q&A as well, that
Yeah.
North Greenbush, nothing's happening to North
I
Greenbush.
had to explain that to a grandparent as well.
Yeah, I'm
who
not
was
sure
concerned
how,
about their grandchild going to Little Red. I'm like, you have other choices. It's not
yeah,
us.
a
So
different
they
district.
don't all get that.
Yeah. So I think, adding a little something about Little Red even for the families, because we have a lot of families who,
Yeah.
I don't even know which students are Little Red, because I think they're all mine.
Right.
So
They're all your
we can
babies.
put that just so they can understand that. September, I listed the upcoming community engagement meetings. We have 2 community forums, 2 for our parents. Bob Bridenstine will be in district. Really just going over, because when he presented the optimization study findings on July 1,
Unfortunately, it was summer, staff was on summer, community, no one was here. So we figured just kind of recapping the findings from the optimization study, which indicated a feasibility study was imperative and immediate. So those pieces are going, those sessions, and then lastly, we just, put the board goal. Wynantskill Board of Education goal is to carefully evaluate the feasibility study with one guiding lens to provide the best academic, social, emotional, and extracurricular opportunities for our students while maintaining fiscal responsibility to the district and taxpayers within. Stakeholder feedback and community buy-in will be vital throughout the process. But I know that was a lot, but it was like I had to dump the timeline and just really just think about it. It really all flowed in together. There was no preconceived notion. There was no underhandedness. There was those are the facts. That's the honest to God, every day as we've lived this since COVID, things getting tighter financially, student enrollment decreasing, state aid less money, issues with the partnerships that we have and we rely on. There's been a lot of uncertainty. We all pull it together and we want to show the community and the kids and the families like everything's great. It's appeared great. It's great is a strong word. Something was needed. We're exploring this for the next 6 months to see if this is a partnership that will work for all of us, for our families. We want the building open. We are going to, the community wants the building open, the staff everybody wants the building open. So unless Troy can make some commitments that the building stays open, taxes don't increase somehow, whether that's in writing, I don't know how that will look. Obviously, the feasibility study is going to be a piece of exploring this, what can be done and what can be done for all of us, for our sanity and for our feeling that we can trust. One of the big pieces, I know we don't want to talk about the amount of, it's a large amount of money, but there has to be some solitude in, we can't imagine that Troy would go back on their word and close the district with that kind of money, right? So if it was it's so much money that if they didn't support us or they closed us and sent the kids into all the district in Troy, what would they do with $241 million? There's just, it's a large amount, and that's why we chose Troy, is because we feel like there would be the greater likelihood to sustain this building long term. 14 years or forever. We like the forever word.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
that's
one other thing to point out on that too is there's a lot of other things, how close we are, right? So
Sure.
if they were to close it, say we did merge with Ava Park and they close us down, we're talking about kids on a bus,
right.
little kids, first graders on a bus, 45 minutes, right, to get out to the elementary schools out there. Troy District is just down at the bottom of the road. You know, they have overpopulation issues.
Right,
They can
which-
potentially push kids up to here, right? Right off of,
That would be a greater chance than
Right.
that, because they really can't. They have not lost enrollment. I think they're down
Right.
3% over the last
Yeah.
20 years. They haven't lost enrollment.
Right.
So what they're stressing is we need your kids to stay right where they are.
Yeah,
This has to be a community school.
right.
This would become just another of their
They're
elementary.
just at the bottom
with-
of the hill,
Right.
On the other side
because
of the street. is Troy.
right.
They don't
And
have
that
any
was
room
what
in
our
their
concern
elementary
was.
schools.
Correct.
Averill Park, who has very low enrollments, who had to close 2 schools because they had low enrollment, would need the kids to fill the seats. Troy doesn't have that going on,
Correct.
which is another plus to, yes, we believe you when you say you will keep us up here. We would overcrowd their buildings, which is a positive thing for us here.
And when you think about all the work that we know the building still needs, I mean, there's a gym floor we've never been able to afford to fix.
Right.
We have athletic fields that the kids couldn't even use this year. We pay extra to have them play someplace else the past few years because these fields aren't playable, but we can't afford to fix them.
Right.
So there are so many things that folks don't see that it would be wonderful to be able keep the building open, do the other upgrades, do the upgrade field, keep our kids here. And that's what they're saying they can do for us.
Yes. Yeah,
They have no room for our kids on any
No.
of their elementary schools.
which is great for us.
So there's all factors that are doing
Right,
good.
Right. Right. So that's it. If you have any thoughts or you think about something to add to that, or I can put it on the Q&A or put it as a link on the page. I mean, that's,
This is great though. 'cause
That's
to-
just
to
a
look
lot of
back at it, I
honesty.
mean, we lived it, but to look back on it now and it's like, wow,
right.
you did
Appreciate
a
all
lot.
the hard work, Mary. You're
No,
killing it.
of course, of course. That's it.
Yeah, I like the timeline too.
Yeah.
Can I see that for one
Yeah,
second?
you can have that back.
The only thing I was gonna say is, can we extrapolate out a little bit what, like, okay, we have somebody for the feasibility study, that looks like a 6-month study, and that gets us to some of the information we talked about in the previous meeting, which is a petition, possibly,
Oh, okay.
a community vote, possibly.
So some of that other, yes,
Just
'cause that's all in
extrapolate
a
it.
Q&A, a
Oh,
different
yeah,
Q&A.
okay.
But yes, I
As part of the
keep-
timeline?
Keep the timeline going and what we see going on for September, October, November. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah.
And I would like the community to have the access to that, so if you would please post that on the
Okay.
Questar site, that would be great.
Okay.
I have a bunch of printouts over there if anyone wants them.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Barber.
Q&A, I printed a bunch of copies of those and the
Oh,
community
that,
event dates.
what's up right now?
Yep,
on
I
the
printed a bunch
webpage?
of those
Okay.
if anyone wants it, and then the community dates I posted over there. And
Okay.
the QR for the website, just in case anyone wants to take them.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anything else for Dr. Iotis before we move on to principal's report? Ms. Toomey?
Thank you. After all of these pieces, we're still working hard to get our building started with a new exciting school year. So while all these things are happening, everyone's getting really excited and ready for the upcoming school year. The calendar for the year is coming together. We met with the PTA and scheduled events for the year, PTA meetings. Recently, we have a lot of kind of hubbub going on in the building. The floors just got waxed, so all of a sudden this week, once they got the all clear, teachers have been in, so people are excited, everything's starting to come together. Recently, Keelan Madeline worked, one of our first grade teachers worked with the newer teachers to train them on really great reading. The schedule is in the final stages. It was a little rocky this year, getting it up and running. We are keeping the same kind of general structure that we've done before, but we had to make some significant adjustments to make it all work, because last year we had one section of 7th grade basically and numbers wise, and so we had to adjust that to 2 sections of 8th grade to make it all work and flow. So we're resolving just the last few conflicts and issues. A big thank you to Amy Murphy. Publicly, I want to thank Amy for her hard work. She does a lot of the work on the back end in terms of School Tool, which is our student information system, to ensure that all of those scheduling pieces go in there. So sometimes that's down to individual kids' schedules and going in and scheduling all of that. And as with anything, it's never without a lot of bumps that need to be fixed. And sometimes we put a whole bunch of that in, and then it all needs to be redone. So a big shout out to her. Also to Kathy Faz. So Kathy Fazioli has worked really hard to prepare everything to send out to families. She sends individual emails to every single family with transportation information, with enrollment information, so parents can update all their phone numbers and contact information. She works really hard to register new families. She's sending records to the kids that are leaving, or for the kids that are leaving. She coordinates all the transportation information. So Kathy Faz is working hard in the office to get everything up and running. Kim Herzelbetz, school psychologist, and Terry McLean, who's our CSE secretary, have been working hard as well to ensure that kids who are transitioning from CPSE or Committee on Preschool Education, coming to Committee on Special Education at the school level. They're getting all of that ready, getting all of the information about students with IEPs and 504 plans shared with teachers. A big thank you, Mary mentioned it, but a big thank you to Mr. Rocco, Mr. Tim for their hard work in preparing the school and grounds. Lots going on to just kind of get things up and ready. They are amazing. You know, once the teachers are in, teachers are like, I need this move somewhere else, or can you come help do this? And they're so responsive. Just a reminder, Parent Square, Parent Portal Access, it's all updated, ready for the new year, but that is where all of our information comes to families. Teachers are working really hard to plan and prep for the year. They're getting their classrooms ready. It's looking pretty good. Everyone's excited. Information about back to school. So first day is Wednesday, September 3rd. On Tuesday, we'll have open school classroom supply drop-off, meet the teachers from 2 to 2:30, so all the students can come in. We're gonna do a quick little orientation for middle schoolers at 2 o'clock, have them be able to go find their lockers, see their classrooms, meet our 2 new middle school teachers, which is exciting. And then there's a PTA sponsoring a Pops on the Playground event with snacks and kind of, seeing friends and seeing teachers and getting reacquainted from 2:30 to 4 out on the playground on Tuesday. Just to mark calendars, open houses, grade 6th grade on Tuesday, September 9th at 5:30. That'll start with a community conversation, and then we'll go right into open house. Similar on Wednesday, September 10th at 5:30 for pre-K through 5. I won't steal Katie's thunder, but we have our first PTA meeting upcoming. Couple updates this year. I was trying to think through. We have a bunch of kind of different unique things going this year that are updates. Probably have heard about the New York State bell-to-bell cell phone ban. So we have our cell hotels. Thank you, Mr. Barber.
Ms. Toomey, are you talking about the award-winning new showcased cell hotel?
Would you like to talk more about our award-winning?
Well, there's lots of videos online,
Yeah.
and there were news segments about them. I don't know, people are giving me awards, asking me for autographs. I'm like, I don't know, I think
There's
it
a
speaks
lot
for
of talk
itself.
around town about this feasibility study, nothing. They're talking about
Paparazzi is here for me
Cell
right now.
hotels, yeah.
They're waiting for me to get out of this meeting.
Exactly. Kids are super psyched
It's a
about
big
it.
run this year.
We're gonna work out a couple kinks on that, but we do think that that will be a pretty seamless process.
I'm riding on that all year.
Thank you, Mr. Berman.
You're welcome.
We're excited. We are finally, it's been a long process, but we are starting to implement the Raptor security system. So if you go to other school systems, districts, buildings, you often have to drop in your ID. It creates, it scans your ID, and then it'll print out an ID badge with your picture and your name. And when it does that, you drop it in about the 20 seconds it takes to do that and spit it back out at you. It's scanning against any of the state sex offender registries, anything that might be outstanding about a person that would make them unsafe as someone to come into school. So it's a little thing, but it's a big thing to implement. We're gonna work on how that gets implemented. It's really simple. It's not very cumbersome. Once you're in the system once, no big deal. We are gonna encourage people to bring their IDs. If you don't, you can still get in. It's just a bit of about a minute or two longer. Another exciting thing, free breakfast and lunch. Finally, we didn't ever meet the threshold for that, but the state has changed that. So starting this year, all students are eligible for free breakfast and lunch. We're still asking people to fill out the form for free and reduced lunch, just because that helps us to give us accurate numbers. But students can get a free breakfast and lunch. They can still buy snacks with their lunch count. Something that's come up a little bit that we're shifting, I just want to make everyone aware of, is that in middle school and 7th and 8th grade, we're doing some more mixed class groupings. So in the past, kids were grouped in one of 2 homerooms for that grade level, and then they switched all day with that same group for the most part. And it was sometimes hard for kids to always be with the same group of kids, where it created a divide, often in students who were accelerated and not, or students who received support and who did not. So we worked hard. It created part of what I talked about, some of those issues with School Tool, but we worked hard to try and allow students to have a little more flexibility. So kids would say, like, I'm not with my friends. And what I can say to kids now is, like, just because you're not with your friend in homeroom or period 1 and 2 doesn't mean you're not going to be in some classes with them throughout. So every child has a unique schedule.
Nice.
So it's sort of a small change, but for middle schoolers, I think
It's a big change.
It's a big deal. So we were excited. It took some extra work, but I think that it will yield a good outcome for the kids and a little bit of a change for not being with the same kids, perhaps all day long. We added new handwriting without tears curriculum, so a handwriting program for pre-K through 2nd. We've had one with Fontes Pinnell, but the teachers weren't thrilled with it, so we're adding this as another component. A new middle school math curriculum with Mr. Roberti, so that is something that's been in place, but we're adding to that, so that's exciting. One new exciting thing too to add, and I talked a little bit about it last year, but our new peer mediation program. So we got a grant through New York State, through the Department of Justice and court system, and it's building on our work with restorative practices. And we have a group of students who already volunteered last year. We've already started the process. They're really excited to become peer mentors or peer mediators. And so we have, through this grant, a trainer who will come from the local CDRC, which is a Community Dispute Resolution Center. and they're gonna train the kids to be mediators, and then those kids will be able to actively mediate cases of other students who are struggling with conflict. So we're really excited about that. We have that lined up already for late September, October, and we're gonna have families involved as we get through that. My last thing is the Compass School Improvement Team, with Dr. Yotis referred to earlier. They are meeting next week, and that team has worked over a couple of years to really implement different things, little things, big things, that are meant to impact climate and culture. And so things like positive postcards, that every kid gets a postcard during the year from someone at school. We have our superstar shout-outs, we have our monthly assemblies, and so that team is, we send out surveys twice a year to families, to students, to staff, and we look for that feedback to help us implement different things to just kind of work on that climate and culture. So that team's meeting next week. We have some exciting stuff coming up this year. We're revamping some of our assemblies, our PBIS, or our positive behavior intervention supports. We're going to be doing a one school, one book thing this year, so you might have heard of that. It's like when the whole school reads the same book, the younger kids have an adult read it to them, either at home or partly in school. The older kids get to read it, and then everyone's read the same book. We do activities around it and sort of talk about that theme. That's it's an inspirational book. So that's an exciting thing that we're up and running this year. So that's it. We're all excited. We're ready for school to start.
A lot of free time then, right? Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Sumi. Any question? Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a general question on school lunch. I know I heard from Growing Boys last year that if you buy lunch, there's, the same amount of lunch that you give a kindergartner is not enough to fill a teenager. Have they changed that? Can we change that? Because
That is not accurate.
okay,
There are different,
they're
for a
different
kindergartner
portions.
to
Okay,
a middle schooler, yes.
okay.
Yeah.
They always brought their lunches, but they from some other kids in
No.
groups. But okay,
Shouldn't be happening.
okay.
There's a new club too, right?
Yes, the Circle Club, or there's a couple in the works.
The woodwork.
There's a woodworking club coming.
Yeah.
Mr. Vecchio's going to be starting a woodworking club. There are a lot of opportunities too through, I know we talked about Sports Furniture with Troy, but there's some extracurricular activities that I know are options, drama, ski club.
Ski.
Is there another one?
Odyssey of the Mind?
Odyssey,
Was it Odyssey of the
yes.
Mind?
Yeah. So
It's
as
a
those things come
musical.
up, we'll send those
Yep.
out to families, but we're working hard to get some of those things out.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
PTA update is the last part of this section. Hi, welcome.
I had a meeting with Shannon and I and Lauren had a meeting the other day to come out this year. Our first PTA meeting is September 23rd. And we have the welcome back the day before school starts. October, we're gonna do like a family fall night here. And we have some other things the rest of the year. Our budget looks great. We're excited for all that we have to do this year, but we have myself, I'm the new president, Lauren's the new vice president, and Randy Skibo is our new treasurer. And we have Kyle as our secretary.
All right.
Award-winning.
Award-winning.
Yeah, the award-winning Kyle.
You might have to pay him more than
Expect a
that.
lot of cameras.
I've been to a few birthday parties the last couple weeks, and I'm trying to recruit some more parents to show up.
Good.
I have a quick question. Is PTA still in need of volunteers?
Absolutely, always, every event.
Yes,
Jenny and Jen are still in charge of the craft fair. They're the chair people of that. I left that up to
I'm
them.
gonna put that date out there.
November 15th is our craft fair. And we have, I think our vendors are filling up pretty quickly.
Nice. Great.
Thank you. Okay, we move on to the next section, which is approval of previous minutes. We have our regular Board of Education meeting from July 1st, 2025. We have our reorg meeting from July 1st, 2025. And we have our joint meeting from August 13th, 2025. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
And all in favor? Aye. Any noes? Abstains? Okay. We move on to business office reports. We have internal claims auditor report, June 2025. Internal claim auditor report, July 2025. And that's it. I thought we had one more, but I was looking ahead. Do I have a motion to approve those?
Motion.
Go ahead.
Jenny?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Jenny,
Kathy? Oh,
I'll second.
Kathy.
She first.
Got it.
Everybody in favor? Aye. Any opposed or abstain? Okay. All right, we're moving on to our consent actions. We have a CSE CPSC recommendation. We have an appointment of Isabella Almodovar. We have another appointment of Isabella Almodovar. We have an appointment of Jennifer Pratt, appointment Connor Roberti, special education agreement, Vanderheiden Hall, agreement Schmidt Leadership Group, appointment Denise Fitzgerald, MOA special projects. We have approval of substitutes, appointment of Jody Howard, appointment Sherry Mantini, special education tuition rate, resignation Nicole Manzer, appointment Neil Benassi, tax rates, summer work Amy Murphy. We have a rescind of an appointment and a building emergency plan. Does anything need to come out of consent agenda? Does anybody have anything they would like to discuss or ask questions about? I know you mentioned congratulations to Nicole Manzer.
Yep, no, I mentioned all the new hires.
Once we discuss it, yeah. Anything else? Do you have anything? No? No? Anybody? Okay, then we can have a motion.
Motion.
Motion. Sorry.
Second?
Second.
You call the roll, please, Mr. Barber?
Sure. Mrs. Urbanek?
Yes.
Mrs. Castle?
Yes.
Mr. Strain?
Yes.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The next section is informational. The next regular Board of Education meeting is September 18th, 2025. And our next section is public comment period. Mr. Barber? Mr. Denny? The floor is yours.
Just a couple of things to throw out there in comments and questions, but has the district been notified by the sheriff that the SROs, or at least some of the SROs in the county are now wearing body cameras in school?
Yes.
If all the locks have been changed, please make sure that the town is aware of it. They'll know to come over and assist you with updating the keys in the box so that when I show up at 2 a.m. I'm not breaking doors. Since every door is now going to be locked, it would be beneficial to have many more than just one key. Because if we have to come in, we generally, the fire department, have to search the building. So having one key, just open all the doors would be very time consuming. You had mentioned that you can't, the state says you can't have more than one feasibility study at a time. I get it, it's the state and they make the rules and whatnot, but I guess part of the question in my head is the feasibility study, or can the feasibility study be a broad ranging study where the Wynantskill district is looking to analyze what our options are with certain districts simultaneously, because technically Averill Park's is a potential. The money is different and whatnot, and there's other things involved there where we may end up like, we could end up like George Washington if we went that route. I understand that, but not knowing more of the details of that, even though there's $241 million on the table, that's not, quite honestly, Wynantskill is not going to exist, so it's up to Troy to figure out how they're going to use that money. Whereas with Averill Park, it's the same thing, however, it's a smaller district. smaller district of sorts. They cover a much larger physical area, and there might be, even though there's less money available, it still might be advantageous for us because we're the ones that are going to be impacted the most. They're going to get the windfall, and hopefully we all get to stay in one place, but stranger things happen. Equal is I haven't done the math, and I started to didn't finish, but we know because Haverhill Park covers the town, East Greenwood covers the town, we know an apples to apples tax rate per thousand based upon our equalization rate. Do we know what the current Troy rate is in order just for the, that'd be a good thing for the FAQ just to see, hey, today, our rate is this per thousand, and the city of Troy's is this per thousand. There is a big disparage there, but there's also a big equalization rate disparage. So it's very, people can look at that and not understand how that works mathematically and go, they're paying half the taxes we are. It's not really accurate. So it's important going, early in the process to get that out there. And I think that's about that.
Thank you, Mr. Denny. Okay, our next section is a request for executive session. Do we have a motion to enter into executive session?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any abstains or nays? Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much,
Appreciate
everybody.
your comments.
Yeah,
Took lots of notes.
thank you.
Before you guys go, I gotta have everybody sign this for the tax rates that we approved it.
Okay. I will do that one second. I
Yeah.
just want to ask.
No problem.
I'll be right back.
Oh, hi Andy. I know.
What's that? Galuli was hiding over there. I went to go check the public comment, and I was like, whoa.